Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of September 8th through the 14th of 2025. All right, so this week we have a continuation of the lunar eclipse. We did just have a lunar eclipse last Sunday, and so it's certainly a week of implementing this. But even these first few days of the week, we can certainly gain some insight still, and it's all about making important shifts and changes to our life journey. Very likely new beginnings, very likely things that give us a sense of freedom and individuality, which is all that Aquarius lunar eclipse. So aside from that, this week is quite mild. Most of the aspects are taking place over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and mostly involving just Mercury and the Sun. So first of all, Mercury will conjoin the Sun. So this can perhaps be some challenging energy because our minds, which is represented by Mercury, is not seen in the sky, is sort of being dwarfed out by the sun. The sun is the only visible thing. So typically with our thoughts, our communications, these might need a little extra awareness and intention. But nonetheless, we can really gain some new insights, especially from more spiritual or unconscious means. So a good weekend to listen, see what shifts and changes, bring a little extra attention to the communications and to the thoughts or the plans and ideas. And all in all, probably noticing some positive shifts there. That conjunction will be in a nice sextile up to Jupiter. So there can be perhaps some hopeful thinking, some opportunities, some inspirations that can be utilized with that. And then on Sunday, we do come into the third quarter moon. So this will be action phase regarding that lunar eclipse. The quarters are the manifestations of the previous event, in this case, the last Sunday's lunar eclipse. And so a good weekend to challenge ourselves, really implement any of those life path awarenesses or changes. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, September 8th. And as you can see, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. You won't see this in mainstream because unfortunately they don't use the visible sky. But here we're doing that and the signs will change. So if you notice some of the placements are different, like perhaps you're expecting the sun to already be in Virgo, for example, definitely check out the link down below on using the visible sky and how this is different from mainstream astrology. Okay, so let's do a bit of a recap because we did have Venus changing sign last week. And of course, we're still in this eclipse energy. So coming into the week, we have the Sun, Mercury, and Venus all in Leo. This is what this whole lunar cycle has been about, which is really about self-expression, creativity, connecting to the things and people that we love in life. So great to be focused on this, which is the Sun, expressing ourselves more in general at this time, with Mercury thinking in a more perhaps creative or passion-oriented sort of way, communicating this way as well. And with Venus, the newly entered planet here, our relationships and just enjoyments in life, seeing a little more of the beauty and the value of self-expression and some of these more passionate or heart-centered things. So lots of energy here in expressive Leo. We still, of course, do have Mars in Virgo, which is where the planets are going to start to shift into very early next week. Mercury, and then soon, very soon after, the Sun will enter Virgo. So giving us also a bit of a prelude, but remembering that it's already been good really this past couple months to be methodical, to be improvement oriented, and to really strive towards refinement fundamentally of ourselves. It always makes it a good time in this case to put action and energy towards personal development, towards fixing problems or situations that need fixing, getting into some of that analytical side. So that's giving us a prelude into really what the coming weeks will be about once the other fast movers get there. But we certainly still have the combination between expressive Leo and improvement-oriented Virgo. All right, so like I said, you can see that all of the aspects actually are concentrated over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's also when we're in that third quarter moon. So looking at this early part of the week, again, Monday and Tuesday, we're still very much in the lunar eclipse energy. The lunar eclipse was just last Sunday. And so this is still a time of making shifts and changes, right? Especially early in the week. And so gaining that insight, being aware of what that lunar eclipse is helping us see. Again, it's in Aquarius. And so this is all about really implementing a life that's more freedom oriented for ourselves. It gives us more of a sense of individuality and perhaps even contribution, being a part of things greater than ourselves, and perhaps even utilizing innovative things or scientific things in our life as well. So this is the lunar eclipse. It's the shift and change to the life journey, but it really is the first eclipse that we've had with the newly entered North Node in Aquarius. And so it's really giving us a prelude for these next, really with this one, a good solid little over a year in regards to these new beginnings. So the North Node's all about new implementations, a new life path, a new karma, if you will, and now getting into some of that progressive, innovative, and forward-thinking Aquarius energy. So shifts and changes still early in the week with that. The moon will be in Pisces these first few days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Pisces coming after Aquarius reminds us that in order to really contribute and listen to that true self, that excitement, we do have to be listening to our soul as well. And so Pisces is about connecting with our soul. The sort of motto of, do what's fulfilling to us on a soul level as well, while Aquarius is the motto of listen to your excitement. Pisces is the motto of listen to your soul. And so we can really combine these. So these first few days, really good for a bit of peace in our life, a little receptivity, connecting to our soul, our intuition, our emotional body. It's still in the heightened energy of the lunar cycle, so not so much a time of necessarily retreating or going inward as much, but incorporating some of that spiritual energy or intuitive energy into our day-to-day lives. So likely noticing themes these first few days around Pisces is that there's no other aspects really going exact at this time, really bringing up that Pisces quality. So any intentions around, again, bringing a little more peace into our life, a little bit more soul fulfillment is just a great way of working with these first few days. Now, once we get to the very later part of Wednesday and really all day Thursday, is going to have the moon in Aries. That's going to place a theme on independence and initiative. And so this can add to maybe some of the active energy in general. Aries is all about following that impulse, doing what's right for us, and just all in all taking a little more of a proactive approach to things. So this is a great theme on Thursday, a little bit of that fire energy available. So the weekend, like I said, is where the main energy is, or at least the shifts of the week are, as we do have those aspects. This is going to be when the moon enters Taurus. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the moon in Taurus. This is actually a very good placement for the moon to be in. The moon loves to be here. Taurus, the bull. It's all about taking things one step at a time. Slow and steady wins the race, and stopping to smell the roses. So cultivating those inner resources, self-worth, self-value, natural talents, but perhaps connecting to the outer resources as well. Some nature, some beauty, some aesthetics, these kinds of things. Absolutely fantastic this weekend. So all in all, the weekend actually looks more on the supportive side, even though we have that combust Mercury over the sun on Saturday. And I think it's mostly with the support from Jupiter. So Jupiter is going to be in a nice sextile between these two, giving us a sense of perhaps optimism, maybe some open-mindedness, and maybe even some opportunities. Now, usually with sextiles, we're not forced into these opportunities, but they can present themselves. So the doors present themselves, and we can choose which of these doors to walk through. Not every door is good to walk through, but the opportunities are there, and we can utilize them as we like. In this context, how can we incorporate perhaps some of that self-expression of Leo? And with Jupiter and Gemini, perhaps curiosity, interest, and learning. And this is typically really good when Jupiter and Mercury are in aspect anyways, like they are on Friday. So maybe a good day for some of that learning or communication. With that being said, it's good to bring some extra conscious awareness to that, because even on Friday, Mercury will be combust. And that means Mercury is not visible in the sky. And so those thoughts and communications can be drowned out. They can be perhaps more automatic or more on the unconscious, kind of similar to a retrograde, but usually here, maybe it's just that we're having a lot of passion. Maybe we're just not able to concentrate. Sometimes a little bit of a jittery energy, or kind of like electricity energy. It's that Mercury energy is being really electrified by the fire and passion of the sun. So this can mean sometimes unconscious thoughts, unconscious communications, things that are good to bring extra awareness to. And in that way, it works great. Then, with these, very often with this new insights, this is how the Greeks saw Mercury going into the underworld to go get insights and information for the rest of the gods to utilize. And so this is symbolic for going into the unconscious, going into the unseen world a little bit and drawing out information, drawing out perspective, drawing out different ways of looking at things. So very likely as a result of this, and just when it comes to that practical life, giving a little bit of extra attention to those thoughts, to those communications, just to make sure those T's are crossed, those I's are dotted, etc., simply because of the combustion there. Okay, but as we get into the rest of the weekend after that, very likely, again, shifts of awareness, perhaps some new insights, some new understanding on things, and in many ways, a new beginning with how we think and communicate, and again, in the more expressive way of Leo, most likely. Okay, so that's the weekend. We will be in the third quarter moon on Sunday. So really the days surrounding Sunday are the action phase of the lunar cycle. This is where we can really challenge ourselves regarding the lunar eclipse energy from a week prior. But the third quarter is much easier to work with, and usually it feels much more natural than the first quarter. So even though it's action oriented, it's good to challenge ourselves. It usually comes across a little bit easier in that sense. So good to challenge ourselves and see what can be applied, and maybe take some of those actions and initiatives that the lunar eclipse awareness was helping us gain. And this can all in all just be really a great way of working with this Sunday period and help us again implement these important life path changes. We will of course have the solar eclipse in about a week from then. So that'll be a fresh new lunar cycle. And so over the next week, after this week, still good for applying and finalizing and implementing these lunar eclipse changes. I will mention that Mercury and the Sun will be going into into Virgo early next week, but not quite yet. Maybe Mercury late Sunday will be experiencing some of that analytical Virgo. All right, everyone. So that's the week in a nutshell. Put very simply, we're in the lunar eclipse season still, and that's especially strong early in the week. Lunar eclipses are about making shifts and changes to our life path, and this week allowing for that and perhaps starting to apply that, especially towards the later part of the week when we enter the third quarter moon. The aspects are concentrated over the weekend with combust Mercury, so bringing that extra awareness to thoughts and communications can be helpful. Help constructively bring things to the surface. Even journaling, writing, bringing things to the surface, just all in all good. But it's great to see Jupiter in a minorly good aspect, sextiling up to that, which can give us a bit of opportunities there and new insights. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Be sure to stay tuned for the weekly live stream. We go live here every Sunday. We are going an hour earlier now, so that's going to be at 12:15 p.m. Eastern time. That's on YouTube. There's also going to be links down below this video. And if you're subscribed to MTZ Insiders, it is the free newsletter. If you're not already subscribed, definitely sign up for that down below. But have a great week, everyone, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.